since I've can remember, being 12, 13, I wanted to start a clothing brand. Yeah, I was definitely weird,
Right.
for that city. Up until starting Checks, I would just go there, meet the people that run the place, meet the owners, keep kind of showing up until they gave me an opportunity.
Yeah.
In hindsight, it was a pretty full noise, hectic way to start a business. To have that faith, composure, conviction to just follow kind of one path, it's pretty difficult to do.
This is Jordan, the founder of Checks, a New Zealand clothing label that's grown from a small K-Road store into a globally recognized brand. But before all of that, he was just a kid in Christchurch who didn't quite fit in.
I wasn't this version of myself back then, but I was still pretty different. High school, I'm wearing like Visvim sneakers on Mufti Day when I was like 16. It's so weird, for that era. To be really obsessed with fashion and sneakers and things like that while at high school was pretty strange. And then it kind of got to a point where I guess tastes of the kind of, more mass populace at school and things is just moving in a different direction. I just felt like I didn't align with that. And so it felt just out of place, but in a way that I didn't really know how to express. And, because you're just young. I think it took moving to Auckland to start kind of finding my identity more. And then that grows and grows over time. And was always into self-expression and was encouraged a lot in my family. My mum take a lot of interest in what I was into and was very supportive. In that environment, I was always led to, feel like that was okay. And just like, it's okay to have varying interests and express yourself in different ways.
After moving to Auckland, Jordan began working at Crane Brothers, a menswear tailoring house, where he learned the discipline of detail and fit. Crane Brothers, what do you think that journey taught you?
It was kind of like an apprenticeship, really. Like, it's quite old school. It was maybe similar to tattooing or barbering or something like that, where you just start at the absolute bottom and you could just stay at that level, or you can work your way up. But it's really like monkey see, monkey do, learning by doing, which suits me really well. It was very detail obsessed, because you're dealing with suits which are there's not a lot of variance to them. I'm a pretty detail driven and obsessed person anyway, and that just really drilled that into me. But then, when you're making custom made to measure suits, it's all about fit. And I think those things I brought into what I do now. I just reached a level in that environment where I was in a creative director position and managing a brand and doing everything, running a store, managing production, doing design. I had some level of ownership. It was a small stake, but ultimately it wasn't my vision. I didn't have full control. I hadn't started it. And I think that just got to a stage where I needed to take that next step into, building something from scratch. And it was very, very personal. And that was my goal, my long-term goal. Probably the realities of how much it costs to start up a business like that has, bricks and mortar retail. We were all pretty unaware. I think if you're going to start a brand now, it's relatively clear how to do it. You know what I mean? Whereas 8 years ago, it's quite a different time, especially in the local market. There just wasn't much of a roadmap or examples to kind of follow. And now there's a lot more. Perhaps if timing was different, maybe we would have done things in a different way, but it's all led us to here. And I still believe in, I guess, the path that we took. I definitely look to people outside of the company that have been successful in this industry. Steve Dunstan, who was one of the founders of Huffer, and Valentine from I Love Ugly. I found it was super helpful to me to reach out. And people that have been there, done that, over a decade, 15, 20 years, longer, are just so wise. And without even being that involved in what you're doing, can kind of cut to the core of it pretty quickly. They've just had so many lessons and can see the forest for the trees. That's really important. I've learned a lot from reaching out to people like that. Yeah, I think having some humility through that, but it's still a pretty steep learning curve.
Opening a physical store is one of the riskiest moves in fashion. For Jordan, it meant there was no plan B.
Pretty much from the jump, especially again with that sort of business approach of having physical retail. You have to be there on the grind every day. There's no plan B. I think at the time I wasn't aware, I guess, of how bold that was. And in hindsight, it was a pretty full noise, hectic way to start a business. Especially I was, 26, just kind of get caught up in all the momentum and the excitement. I was at that age and about to fulfill my dream, starting a brand, opening a store. You're just going with it. And then it's once business is open, maybe you have those first few months of trading where, there's lots of excitement around it. And then, some of the realities start hitting. The old adage has been used about starting a fashion brand, that it's like jumping out of a plane and then building the parachute as you're falling. And that's certainly, I think, pretty accurate to my experience. You're just kind of winging it and figuring it out as you go. Yeah, I've just been given a lot of faith and trust to go for what I want, and want to achieve. Once I've got something in my mind that I really want, I'm just like very dogged and tenacious about it. Yeah, I think my family experience, particularly through my mum, just giving me a lot of support and was supporting my different interests and goals. I lean on the people around me so much, and to this day, of course, just because we've been doing this for 8 years does not mean it's any easier. The challenges just get bigger. Early on, when we first started, we were also selling other brands. So our store sold other international labels and then had the checks kind of in-house product. And the initial interest in our own product was quite high, and people just wanting to wear, things that had checks on them. Then some of those people, those mentors that we talked about, were like, you've got something there and that's where the future is, and you should really go full steam towards that with your own brand. Quite quickly became the path that we took. I think some of my original motivations were to create something that felt local and was tied to our lived experience, here in Aotearoa, but was operating at a global standard. I think in those first 2, 3, 4 years, we were doing that, whether that was, international collaborations or stockists in like Japan and the UK and the US, through Wholesale. As big validators, a global store or something kind of reaches out to you. It's like, hey, we like what you're doing. When I've been so absorbed in fashion for so long, those things mean so much. We're working with an American department store called Nordstrom, which are huge. They placed a few orders with us, and we put so much time and work and resource and investment into fulfilling these orders. But their expectations and sort of standards for working with them are so high and so onerous. And obviously they want it to fast sell through. So they're like, we need to see more of this in your range. They'll be really direct about it. The way the product is labeled, the way that it's packaged, the way that it's cartoned, the way that it's freighted. And they wanted DDP, meaning delivery duty paid. What they paid per unit included all costs of getting it to their warehouse facility. And if you're getting 6-figure orders or more, well, that's probably worth it to us. And so we kind of started to almost structure the whole business around them. And I was spending so much of my time on it, very strict on sort of delivery windows, which is a massive challenge in fashion. And then, they have, certain sales expectations. I know you're not meeting that, or there's whatever market conditions in that their end, they might just turn it off. And I just didn't like the way that felt all of a sudden. And then you're kind of scrambling off the back of that. And it just made me realize that you cede a lot of control. You can probably potentially achieve a lot more faster by putting all that energy and investment into a more direct kind of sales model. Our previous store location was on Pitt Street by K Road, and in that time was when we were really wholesale focused. Again, sort of tapped into some mentors and things. Someone suggested, you should really look at your retail presence as a key driver, and think about your location. And moving here to Newmarket was kind of the next step, to have higher quality of customer, high level of foot traffic, higher average order value, and then also just step into kind of a new position in new territory. K Road, it's sort of quite gritty, and that sort of suits part of the brand's personality for sure. But I think I wanted to just slowly start shifting towards something that felt a wee bit more elevated, but that maybe you could think about in a slightly different way. We were known for these sort of statement items, but I think now we're kind of creating more items that people could think about as a bit more modular, or a bit more easily fitting in with other things that they've already got. We had more of a collection that was just all of these sort of quite standout items, but I want to shift towards creating things that were still distinctive and had flair and something a little bit different and unique, but were a bit easier to pair into like a full look. I see that happening now. They're buying a look, and some of these things come directly from campaign or a lookbook, which is really cool to see.
Beyond physical stores, Jordan knew chicks needed to grow online. That meant mastering e-commerce and eventually paid advertising.
I mean, it's made a big difference. I'd say that. It's just a faster, easier way to reach more people rather than a store, the benefit where people can step into your brand. The staff are telling the story, the fit out, the layout, so you're seeing the way all the products merchandise, the mannequins. There's so many touch points. I think what I'm learning, I guess, is maybe how to do that in the e-commerce environment where that was pretty secondary, to be honest. We had it and we would, achieve sales there, of course. But now kind of learning how to drive it, you're sort of replicating that experience. I think a big difference is, particularly now with doing more paid activity, is learning more about basically amplifying hit products. And it's sort of weird in a way that I guess it's taken me that long to learn this. Yeah. But I think in that environment, that's the foundation of it, basically. That drive and conviction carries you a long way. What is it? The majority of businesses fail, right? I don't know what that statistic is. Yeah. I think less of it's about money and more of it's about giving up because it's really fucking hard. But that conviction, belief will carry me most of the time. What is it? Win or learn?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that probably self-belief, I think is so important and significant for me, because sometimes you waver from that. It's not like it's at 100% all the time. And particularly if you have a knock of some sort, or a failure, then it's very easy to kind of look at that and go, look at what other people are doing, think to pivot, to have that faith, composure, conviction to just follow kind of one path or aesthetically have real cohesion and consistency. Pretty difficult to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's wrong, obviously, by the same token, to kind of test things, whether that's in product or in sales or distribution or marketing. I think that that's really helpful because then you get clarity through experience, trying different things, seeing what the market reacts to ultimately.